The crash ripped me awake. Wood, splintering, metal, metal, straining. I ran outside, barefoot, cold air, heart pounding. Veronica Hale stood in my yard, calm, focused, swinging a baseball bat with steady, controlled force. Not wild, not screaming, just deliberate. CRACK. Another section of the coop gave way. Feathers burst into the air. My hens scattered in panic, wings beating, clucking sharp and frightened. "Stop," I shouted, rushing forward. "What are you doing?" She turned slowly. No rage, no chaos, just that same thin, controlled expression. "This structure has been flagged multiple times," she said evenly. "You were notified. Non-compliance has consequences. You can't just destroy my property." Veronica adjusted her grip on the bat, almost bored. "I am documenting a violation." Then a voice cut through the morning. "Veronica, put it down." I turned. Eleanor Hale stood at the gate, pale, steady, watching her closely. For a moment, no one moved. The yard, the broken wood, the terrified hens, the quiet tension hanging in the air like something ready to snap. And deep inside, I felt it. This wasn't about HOA rules anymore. Something was wrong, something dangerous, and I knew this was only the beginning. If you want to hear more true stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button to HOA Update. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? 6 months before that morning, life here felt almost peaceful. I moved into this neighborhood looking for quiet, no noise, no chaos, just a place where mornings felt slow and evenings felt safe. The streets were clean, the lawns perfect, and everything seemed orderly, controlled in a comforting way. That was when I built the coop. 3 weekends. Careful hands, solid wood painted red with white trim, strong wire, clean lines, ventilation done right. I read every HOA rule before placing a single nail. No roosters, no smell, no noise, fully compliant. When it was finished, I brought home 6 hens. Ruby, bold and curious. Willow, quiet and gentle. Daisy, nervous but sweet. Pearl, trusting, always close to me. Clover, stubborn, fearless. Honey, calm, warm, steady. Mornings became simple again. Soft, clucking, fresh straw. Sunlight across the yard. Collecting eggs felt peaceful, grounding. For a while, nothing disturbed that rhythm. The HOA seemed strict, but manageable. Rules were clear. Follow them, and life stayed smooth. Then Veronica Hale appeared. The first time I noticed her, she was already standing near my fence, still, watching. Perfect posture, neutral expression. "Well," she said calmly, eyes on the coop, "that's an unusual addition." Her tone wasn't hostile, but it wasn't friendly either. I explained everything. Fully compliant, clean, quiet, within regulations. She nodded slowly. "Standards exist for a reason," she replied. "Property values depend on them." Then she walked away. After that, small things changed. Sometimes I'd see her across the street, watching briefly before turning away. Sometimes she passed by and said things that sounded polite, but didn't feel that way. Hope maintenance remains consistent. Neighbors expect uniformity. Compliance prevents complications. Nothing direct, nothing open, but enough to plant unease. One afternoon, while I was feeding the hens, my neighbor Martin Brooks leaned over the fence. "You met Veronica," he said. I nodded. Martin sighed. "She believes rules are tools. When she focuses on someone, it rarely ends quietly." I tried to dismiss it, told myself it was just neighborhood politics, but the feeling stayed, like something unseen had shifted. Days passed. The coop remained clean, the hens calm, everything within rules. Then one morning, I opened my front door and found an envelope placed neatly on the mat. HOA letterhead. Inside, a violation notice. Non-compliant livestock structure. Review required. I read it twice. Then again, I had followed every rule, every single one. Standing there in the quiet morning, paper trembling slightly in my hand, a cold realization settled in. This wasn't about regulations. This was the beginning. I told myself the notice was a clerical error. Paperwork. Misfiled complaint. Something that could be cleared up with calm explanation and documentation. I gathered everything. printed HOA bylaws, photos of the coop, receipts, measurements, facts, proof, compliance. Veronica preferred procedure 2. 2 days later, she appeared at the fence again. Still posture, neutral face, eyes scanning the yard like an auditor reviewing numbers. "You received the notice," she said calmly. "Yes," I replied. "I also verified compliance. The structure meets all HOA requirements." She nodded once. "That will be evaluated." No anger, no threat, just tone, flat, administrative, controlled. But something had shifted. A week later, I woke to noise, sharp clucking, rapid wings, panic. I ran outside. The coop door was open. Ruby darted across the yard. Daisy fluttered near the fence. Willow crouched low in fear, feathers scattered across the grass. The latch wasn't broken, not loose, opened cleanly, deliberately. I gathered them slowly, one by one, hands steady, chest tight. Chickens don't open doors. Wind doesn't turn latches. Someone had been inside. That afternoon, I added a second lock. 2 nights later, the first rock hit. Then another, and another. By the time I reached the window, the yard was still again, except for the frightened movement inside the coop. A dent in the roof, wire bent inward. Nothing destroyed, just disturbed. The next morning, Veronica walked past like nothing had happened. I stepped to the fence. "Someone vandalized my coop last night." She paused slightly. "Unfortunate. You didn't notice anything?" "No," she said evenly, then added, "Unregulated additions sometimes attract attention." The statement was neutral, but deliberate. I reported the damage, submitted photos, logged times. The HOA replied briefly, "Matter will be reviewed during the next scheduled meeting." Days passed. More small disturbances, scratches on wood, feed scattered. Nothing major, nothing random. Pattern, pressure, documentation became routine. Timestamps, photos, notes. Calm turned into quiet frustration, then into something sharper. I knew who was responsible, but knowing isn't proof. Then one afternoon, I came home earlier than usual. The yard was quiet, too quiet. As I stepped through the gate, something felt wrong, subtle but unmistakable. Then I saw her. Veronica Hale stood inside my yard, near the coop, examining it, one hand resting on the structure like it belonged to her, a small empty bucket on the ground beside her. "What are you doing?" I asked, voice steady but firm. She turned calmly. "No guilt, no urgency. Inspection," she replied. "The gate was unsecured." "It was locked," I said. "You can't enter private property." "HOA bylaws allow compliance verification," she answered, tone unchanged. "That does not include trespassing." For a moment, silence. Her expression didn't shift, but something colder moved behind it. Then she picked up the bucket. "We will continue evaluation," she said, and walked toward the gate. I locked it behind her, then added another lock. My hands weren't shaking from fear anymore, from clarity. This wasn't miscommunication. This was deliberate. And standing there in the quiet yard, I understood this had become a war of procedure. And it was only beginning. After that day, the feeling of being watched never left. The vandalism continued. Small, precise, deliberate. Feed scattered in patterns that made no sense. Wire twisted just enough to show interference. Scratches along the coop door. Not enough to destroy, just enough to unsettle. Sleep became shallow. Every sound pulled me awake. Every shadow felt wrong. Then came the morning. Everything changed. I stepped outside with the feed bucket, expecting the usual gentle chorus. Instead, silence. Ruby stood near the corner. Willow barely moved. Daisy stayed low. Clover didn't approach. Honey gave a soft, uneasy sound. And Pearl was lying still beside the coop. At first, I thought she was resting. Then I touched her. Cold. "No," I whispered, lifting her gently. "No wounds. No struggle. Just stillness." The vet confirmed it hours later. Poison. Rat poison traces. Ingested. The drive home felt hollow. Something inside me had shifted. Not just grief, something sharper. The next morning, I walked out with 3 cups of feed instead of 4. The corner where Pearl used to sleep was empty. No soft cluck. No gentle step behind me. The silence felt louder than any argument. That was the moment grief changed shape. I wasn't just heartbroken anymore. I was calculating. That afternoon, cameras went up. Everywhere. Motion sensors, night vision, backup recording, no blind spots. If someone entered my yard again, I would see it. Days passed. Nothing. Then a week. Fear turned into waiting. Waiting turned into tension. I checked the feeds constantly. Midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I reported the poisoning. Without direct proof, classification is difficult, the officer said. Possibly accidental exposure. Accidental. The HOA response came slower. Matter will be reviewed at the next meeting. 2 weeks away. Meanwhile, the nights continued. Then, finally, movement. 2:13 a.m. A figure entered the yard, dark clothing. Controlled movement. Straight toward the coop. Veronica. She approached the camera and sprayed something. Paint blurred the lens, but not before her face appeared clearly. Focused. Intent. Proof. I replayed it again and again. Then something else appeared. At the far edge of the yard, near the back fence, another figure stood in shadow. Still. Watching. Not moving. Not approaching. Just there. The timestamp shifted. Minutes passed. The second figure remained silent, observing Veronica like a witness in the dark. My chest tightened. Veronica wasn't the only one entering my yard at night. And suddenly, the fear returned, deeper than before. Because now, there were two shadows, and I didn't know which one was more dangerous. I barely slept after that. Two figures in my yard. One destroying, one watching. Neither explained. By afternoon, exhaustion mixed with urgency. I needed answers, not guesses. Martin Brooks appeared at the fence while I was checking the camera wiring. He studied my face quietly, like he already knew what I had seen. "You saw the second one," he said. I didn't deny it. "That was Eleanor Hale," he continued. "Veronica's mother-in-law. She's been watching her for months." The words didn't feel relieving. They felt heavier. "Why?" I asked. Martin hesitated. "Custody battle. Divorce. And, people say, Veronica hasn't been stable. Eleanor is trying to protect the kids." That evening, there was a knock at my door. Eleanor Hale stood there, calm, composed, eyes tired but sharp. No shadow now, just presence. "May I come in?" she asked. I let her. We sat across from each other in silence for a moment. Then she spoke. Not gently, not accusing, but carefully. "Did you provoke her?" The question caught me off guard. "No." "Did you violate HOA rules?" "No." "Did you threaten her?" "No." Eleanor watched me for a long moment, studying, weighing, deciding. Then she nodded slowly. "Good," she said quietly. "I needed to be sure you were the stable one before I showed you this." She placed her phone on the table and pressed play. The videos were disturbing. Veronica shouting uncontrollably, pacing in agitation, throwing objects, speaking in sharp, fragmented bursts. One clip showed her threatening someone off camera, voice cold, unsteady, unstable. I felt the room tighten. "My son is filing for custody," Eleanor said. "Veronica's behavior has been escalating for months. Rage, paranoia, episodes. I've been documenting everything to protect those children." She paused, then added quietly, "Your footage matters too." I understood. Trespassing, sabotage, poisoning, destruction. This wasn't just harassment anymore. It was evidence. Evidence that could stop something dangerous. Fear shifted into something steadier. Resolve. "I upgraded my cameras," I said. "If she comes back, we'll capture everything." Clearly. Eleanor nodded once. "I will continue watching," she replied. "But this time, we finish it." For weeks, I had felt hunted. Now, for the first time, I felt prepared. This wasn't survival anymore. This was strategy. And deep inside, I made a decision. This ends now. After that night, everything became precise. No more reacting. No more fear. Every step had purpose. The next morning, I reinforced the system. New cameras, higher angles, hidden placements, backup recording in case one failed. Motion alerts tightened. No blind spots. If Veronica entered the yard again, there would be no doubt, no blur, no denial. But surveillance alone wasn't enough. The coop door had been sticking for weeks. Warped wood, tight latch. so I added a simple storage shelf above it and placed the compost bucket there temporarily. Nothing complicated, nothing designed to hurt anyone. If the door opened gently, nothing would happen. But Veronica never opened anything gently. I wasn't setting a trap. I was protecting what little peace I had left. Night after night, Eleanor and I watched the feeds in silence. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2. Most nights, nothing but stillness and distant streetlights. Then she returned. 2:11 a.m. The alert buzzed softly. I opened the live feed. Veronica slipped through the side fence, dressed in dark clothing, moving with controlled precision. Not frantic, not loud, just focused, intent. The camera recorded everything. Trespassing, examining the coop latch, pacing slowly, muttering under her breath, hands tightening and releasing as if fighting invisible tension. She left without opening the door, but the evidence grew, and during the day, pressure increased. Formal HOA letters arrived. Procedural, cold, bureaucratic. Notices of non-compliance, warnings of fines, inspection demands, structural reviews. All signed under Veronica's authority, calm language, sharp intent. She was building pressure, trying to corner me, trying to force retreat. But this time, every letter was documented, every timestamp saved, every action recorded. The tension grew heavier with each passing night. Then came the night everything shifted. 2:47 a.m. Multiple motion alerts triggered at once. I opened the feed instantly. Veronica again. But different. Her steps were faster, less controlled. She walked straight to the coop without hesitation, shoulders tight, breathing visible in the cold air. She grabbed the coop door, paused, then pulled hard. The shelf tipped. The compost bucket slid forward and overturned, spilling thick, foul contents over her shoulders and arms in a sudden cascade. Not violent, not injuring, just humiliating, startling. She gasped sharply, stumbling backward, slipping on the wet ground, breath uneven as the smell overwhelmed her. No screaming, no chaos, just shock, then fury building beneath it. She staggered toward the fence, covered, shaken, furious, leaving a clear trail behind her, and the cameras recorded everything, every second, every movement, every reaction. I didn't move, I just watched, because deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. This was the moment everything would escalate. Morning didn't bring calm. It brought tension, thick, quiet waiting. I replayed the footage once, then again. Veronica slipping, drenched, stunned. Any rational person would have stopped, walked away, let it end. Veronica didn't. She adjusted. The next day, just after sunrise, the first strike came. CRACK. I stepped outside. Veronica stood in the yard again, not frantic, not screaming, baseball bat in her hands, posture straight, expression composed, almost administrative. She swung once, clean, controlled. The coop wall splintered. "Stop," I said firmly, stepping forward. "You cannot damage private property." She didn't raise her voice. "The structure remains non-compliant," she replied. Repeated notices were issued. Another swing. Wood cracked, wire bent, the hens scattered, wings beating sharply against the morning air. "This is destruction," I said, "not inspection." She paused, resting the bat lightly against her shoulder. "Corrective action," she answered calmly. "Documentation is ongoing." Then Eleanor's voice came from the gate. "Veronica, enough." Eleanor entered slowly, steady, controlled, watching her carefully. For a moment, Veronica didn't move. Then she turned toward Eleanor, and something shifted. Not rage, strain. "You interfered," Veronica said quietly. "You always interfere." Eleanor didn't respond immediately. "You need to stop this." Veronica let out a short, hollow laugh. "Stop? After everything? After you turned him against me? After you followed me? Recorded me?" Her tone was still calm, but tighter now, fracturing beneath control. Then her eyes moved toward me. "You believe you are the victim," she said, "but narratives are flexible." My chest tightened. "I have recordings too," she continued evenly. "Her presence near my property, night activity, persistent observation. In court, context matters." Eleanor remained still, but I saw tension in her hands. Veronica lowered the bat slightly, voice colder now. If she testifies, credibility becomes relevant. If credibility fails, cases fail. The message was clear. Threat without shouting. Control without chaos. For a moment, the yard fell silent. Broken wood beneath our feet, frightened hens whispering low sounds behind us, morning light catching dust in the air. But something had changed again. This wasn't harassment anymore. This was leverage. And standing there, watching her calm, controlled, dangerous posture, I understood. The final confrontation had begun. Veronica did not leave. She stood in the yard, breathing steady now, the bat resting loosely at her side. The calm had returned, but it wasn't peace. It was something colder, measured, calculated. For a moment, no one spoke. Then she looked directly at me. "You want clarity?" she said evenly. "Then understand this was never about poultry." Her eyes moved slowly across the yard, the rebuilt sections of wood, the hens gathering nervously, the quiet morning light. "It's about standards," she continued. "Order, stability. Some people maintain it. Others introduce variables." Her tone was calm, controlled. But beneath it, something brittle trembled. Eleanor remained silent, phone low in her hand, recording. Veronica paced once across the broken ground. "For 8 years," she said, voice tightening slightly, "I maintained appearances, structure, discipline, while everything behind it collapsed. Marriage, reputation, control." She stopped, looked back at me. "And then you arrived. Gam. Content. Predictable. Every morning, routine, peace, simplicity. You displayed stability I was expected to project. That was intolerable." Her fingers tightened around the bat. "I did not target you emotionally," she added. "I corrected imbalance." The words sounded clinical, detached, but the strain was rising now. "You poisoned Pearl," I said quietly. She didn't deny it. "Rodent compound was present," she replied calmly. "Exposure occurred." Eleanor's voice finally entered, steady but firm. "Veronica, listen to yourself." For the first time, Veronica's control cracked. "I am listening," she snapped. Not screaming, but sharp, raw. "Everyone else stopped. My husband stopped. This community stopped. And now you stand here recording, collecting, judging, as if you are stable." Her breathing grew uneven. Words came faster. "If custody is removed," she continued, "all of this becomes irrelevant. Records, reputation, stability. I will not be the only one reclassified." The threat hung heavy. Neighbors had begun gathering quietly, drawn by tension, whispers spreading. Phones appeared, observing, witnessing. Veronica saw them too late. Her voice rose, control slipping fully now. "You think documentation saves you?" she said, almost shouting. "Context decides everything. Narratives shift, and I will not disappear quietly." Sirens sounded in the distance. Closer, closer, closer. Eleanor handed over her phone calmly when authorities arrived. I provided every recording. The trespassing, the sabotage, the destruction, the confession. Time-stamped, clear, undeniable. Veronica attempted one last defense. Procedural, controlled, but the structure of it collapsed beneath evidence and witnesses. She was escorted away, not screaming now, just speaking rapidly, insistently, as if still arguing a case no one was hearing anymore. And with that, her authority ended. The HOA moved quickly afterward. Removal, investigation, legal review, custody hearing shifted, psychiatric evaluation ordered, control gone. But as the yard grew quiet again, I didn't feel victory. I looked at the damaged coop, the frightened hens, the space where Pearl once stood. Veronica was gone, yet the weight of what happened remained. Her downfall had begun, and the long work of repair, inside and out, was only starting. The weeks that followed were quieter than I expected. Not empty, not hollow, just still. The court decision came without drama. Firm, measured, final. Full custody was granted to Veronica's husband. Temporary protective orders followed, and soon after, she was gone from the neighborhood. No confrontations, no last scenes, just absence. For the first time in months, the nights were silent. No footsteps beyond the fence, no movement on the cameras, no tension pressing against the dark. Just ordinary quiet. the kind I had once taken for granted. The yard took longer. The coop stood damaged for days, a reminder of everything that had happened. Splintered wood, bent wire, an empty space where Pearl used to sleep. I avoided it at first, but healing doesn't come from looking away, so I rebuilt it. Stronger frame, reinforced joints, new wire. Careful, steady work. Not rushed, not emotional, just patient reconstruction. And slowly, the rhythm returned. Ruby, willow, daisy, clover, and honey settled back into calm routines. Their movements softened. Their morning sounds grew gentle again. Life rebalanced, imperfect but steady. 2 new hens joined the flock weeks later. Small, curious, quietly adjusting to their new home. The coop felt full again, but Pearl's absence remained. Some losses don't disappear. They stay. Quiet, permanent, part of the story. The neighborhood changed too. People spoke more openly. About silence, about fear, about how power, when unchecked, becomes something else. Some apologized. Some admitted they had seen signs earlier but stayed quiet. The illusion of perfection had cracked, and something more honest replaced it. The HOA shifted as well. New leadership. Different tone, less control, more balance. Not perfect, but better. Eleanor visited sometimes. Calm, steady, never celebratory. For her, nothing about this was victory. It was protection. For children. For truth. For stability where it mattered most. One evening, as the sun lowered across the yard, I stood quietly near the coop. The hens moved slowly through golden white. No panic, no fear. Just routine, just presence. For the first time in months, nothing felt tense. Nothing felt watched. Nothing felt fragile. Just quiet. Just breath. If you want to hear more true stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button to HOA Update and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from?